Dream Theater are the undisputed kings of prog metal. That's just a fact. They've been doing it since the 80s, and they're still the biggest name in the genre. But do they hold up by today's standards, or have they been surpassed at their own game? Meaning, can they hang compared to the kids on TikTok or YouTube or modern prog bands that are routinely playing things that would have been considered impossible 20 years ago? It's a good question. And today we're going to find out. I'm going to check out their documentary for the making of Systematic Chaos, and we're going to see if their playing and skills hold up by today's standards or if it was just good for its time. For those who don't know me, I'm Eyal Levi, CEO of URM Academy. I've been a producer and guitarist in my band Doth since 1999, and have been playing way longer than that, and I saw firsthand what an impact Dream Theater made on the scene when Pull Me Under came out. But I don't know a ton about Systematic Chaos, so let's get into this documentary and see how it holds up.
Okay, it's September.
A little bit of a difference between January and September. Close, though. Close.
September 20th, 2006. We're going to start work on the first drum track. This is song number 1. So wish me luck.
Good luck.
Let's begin this record.
Let's do it. All right, that's sick. One thing I've always wondered about this kind of band that's playing in odd meters and has parts that sound the same, but the counting on them changes constantly. So it's similar, but not the same. And it's over and over and over and over again. I wonder if they're memorizing it or if they just have the pattern ingrained and they're listening for cues for the next part. I know some people actually read music while they do this stuff. I'm curious what their method is and if the band is using the same method or if each dude in the band has a different way of getting through this stuff. Before John solos here, let me just say Jordan Rudess is one bad motherfucker. One of the best. And if any of you follow him out there, you all know the man's a genius. But before I go any further, I wanted to mention the brand new URM Academy iOS app, which is out now in the App Store. Log in with your URM account and you can access Nail the Mix, Mix Labs, and Fast Tracks. It's also great for riff hard because you can zoom in on the notation and use the built-in metronome, which includes presets for all of the schedule exercises. Just tap on the lesson and it'll set the metronome automatically. And last but not least, you can also download videos to your device to watch offline for those of you that have a long commute, travel, or anything like that. It's in the App Store as URM Academy. There's also a link in the description of this video, or you can scan the QR code on the screen right now.
On this particular album, we're all extremely excited about it because we feel that it is the epitome of what Dream Theater music is, in every aspect.
We still want to make music that's vital and energetic and inspired, and I think we're doing that. We don't feel bored and like, what do we do now? Another album? We still get charged, we still get excited writing music together.
That's one of the biggest bummers, and I can tell you this from recording some veteran bands. You can always tell there's those who are still as fired up about it as they always were, and they're stoked that they're at a position in their career where they can keep on doing this, and they see it as a gift. Basically, they see themselves as lucky. Even though they work their asses off, they still see themselves as lucky and fortunate to even get the chance to do this. But then you get some of these other veteran bands that take it for granted and are just basically going through the motions and are kind of over it. So I know by this point in time, Dream Theater had been around quite a while and had had quite a bit of success. So it's good to see that they were still hungry this far into the game.
After the Radio City show in April of 2006, we took off the summer, and it was the band's first summer off in over 10 years.
If you're wondering why that is, why they haven't had summers off, it's because for heavy bands, I'm sure a lot of you know this, but in case you don't know, that's festival season. In those days, there were festivals like Ozfest and eventually Mayhem that would do the US, which were great for bands. But at the same time, all the Eurofests are happening. There's some bands to this day who only play the European festival circuit and don't tour the rest of the year because the pay is fantastic. So if you're a band that makes a living off of this and you're big enough to play the festivals, you usually do. And so it says a lot that they thought it was important enough to take that summer off. Not only that, but they were also in a position to be able to take that summer off. That's awesome.
And then we reconvened in September of 2006 at Avatar Studios in New York City. We worked with a new engineer for the first time in many, many years.
Avatar Studios, RIP. I believe that's the default drum set that comes with Superior Drummer, was done in this studio.
We worked with Paul Northfield, who's done so many great albums, from Rush's Moving Pictures and Permanent Waves all the way to Operation Mindcrime by Queensryche. So many albums that really inspired us, when we were younger. And like we've done with many of our recent albums through the years, we actually just moved into the studio and wrote and recorded simultaneously.
We're set up in the studio. We got all of our gear. We're in a huge room. We're in a circle, and we go to work, and we're just jamming. We're coming up with ideas. We're improvising. We're all set up to record, so anything that we come up with is immediately recorded.
A lot of people talk some shit about the modern way of doing things, of recording in the bedroom or recording at home, people not going to studios. But few things you should keep in mind. A lot of people still do go to studios, just the budgets are not what they used to be back then. So the idea of a band camping out in the studio for months and months and months on end, writing and recording at the same time, it's just not reality for most bands, except for at the highest level. And even at the highest levels, most of them already have home rigs anyways. There was a time period where home rigs were kind of unaffordable, and so bands did pre-pro in the rehearsal space, then went to the studio to record everything. But with the technology now, the writing and production process oftentimes can happen at the same time because of the availability of the home gear. So that's actually a huge advantage because you can get ideas while they're fresh. There's something magical about being able to actually put things down on a tape or hard drive when you have that inspired moment, and not something that you have to try to recreate later, which may or may not work.
5 or 6 months, we started in September 2006 and we wrapped it and delivered it in February of 2007. What are your thoughts on the session so far?
Very inspiring. We're doing our usual crazy thing, creating many riffs.
Mm-hmm. Many riffs, as can be seen on this chart.
Yeah.
In the Presence of Enemies, it turned out to be the two-parter. So that was the first thing we came in, and after however many months off that we had, 5 or 6 months, and we wrote this thing that was very progressive, very, very long. I forget the total length of it before we broke it up, and very much the epitome of a Dream Theater creation. And I remember feeling really good about this, like from the get-go. Wow, this album is going to be great. So it sort of set the tone for the whole thing.
All right, let's go back and look at that chart again, because this chart is kind of like the length of lots of bands' full-on album chart. Okay, so it says here, like I already know because we already saw it, this is song 1. So this is the chart for an entire song. Opening fill, guitar, something harmony, something bass, a groove, I think in 3. Etc., etc. And I guess this is how much they worked on the 8th of September, 11th of September. I see that they have the dates. So what I'm wondering is, since they're writing, is this what they're adding onto the song? That is a lot of parts, but I guess this gives you some insight into how they remember everything. It's a lot of parts.
When it came time to make this album, there wasn't a preconceived direction, and that was almost a conscious decision. I actually had a few ideas before we started the album, and I was like, should I bring them up, or should we just roll with it and see what comes out? And the ideas that I did have, I ended up not bringing up just to see what would happen. And within the first couple days and weeks of writing, we just went with whatever came out. And that's kind of the way we used to do it in the old days. We would just show up at rehearsal and plug in and see what happens. That's what happened with this album. And it was actually a really fresh, inspiring way to work.
I need to just point out, these are a lot of section markers. Oh, wow. I wonder what, right here, Opeth Pumpkin. what the fuck is an Opeth pumpkin? One thing I would like to point out is the idea of a concept album sounds really, really good in theory. Lots of bands have pulled it off, but I know plenty of bands also who have tried to do that, and something about doing the concept record, it like handcuffed them creatively because they had to stay within these lines, and that's not really where they were at artistically, and so they trashed the concept record and just did their thing. And you have to have the confidence that you know what you're doing. What you're going to do, what you're going to come out with is going to be good. You do need to be confident that you don't need, I guess, the training wheels of a concept, though there's nothing wrong with concept albums. Sometimes it's good to not have one. Like, no concept is a concept.
Michael Wilton said his favorite Petrucci story is your nightmare of playing so fast that it turned into one note. He says he still tells that story.
That's really funny. Okay, here we go.
Okay.
I also have another nightmare that I picked so fast that the string started to smoke and then it popped. like little smoke comes out. The string breaks. Okay, again.
We can add it in CGI on this video right here.
I saw in the section markers that there was a Muse section, and I'm curious if that's what this is, because that tremolo picking and the type of delay that he's got going on, and then the actual melody itself is very Muse sounding. So I wonder if that's what they're talking about. Also, I need to point out that it's really, really cool that they mentioned their influences in the markers, because a lot of bands like to hide that shit. You know, they have ego attached to all this and feel like they can't admit that they are emulating something or really heavily inspired by something, but these guys don't care. They're very open about who a section is inspired by. And I think because they're confident in that it's still going to be Dream Theater, even if this is a Muse kind of part. I'm going to go with, yes, it's the Muse part, especially now that we're hearing the arpeggios on the synth.
It's a little Pac-Man-y.
You hate those sounds, right?
It's the popcorn sound.
It's so back.
See, what's cool about how they do these types of harmony or unison parts that are technically impressive is that I've seen lots of bands do this sort of thing where it just sounds like elevator music or like scale exercises. What I really, really like about Dream Theater is they do this stuff, but it's still very musical and it's fitting the theme and the, I guess, the harmonic movement of the song very, very well. It never feels showy to me, even though it is flashy, and I think that goes with a genre, but it doesn't feel like style over substance, is what I'm saying. People in the comments, let me know if you can actually sight read musical notation.
It's about somebody who gets visited at night by vampires and gets taken away and, you know, shown all these wonderful things, but doesn't realize the whole time that he's getting his blood sucked. And then she ends up taking him in the end. Nice light topic.
Then rising suddenly, I felt a chilling breath upon me.
haven't been keeping count, but I don't know if you all have noticed that it seems like John's been playing lots of different guitars, which I think is really cool because they all sound different. And when you're able to do a session like this, that you have all this time and a place like Avatar Studios, you may as well go for the exact instrument for the right part at all times.
For say
You want not to be afraid. Forsaken. I have come for you tonight.
It's always cool when you can see a metal band that can actually handle 3-part harmonies and pull them off live. Actually, a band in the extreme scene that is really, really good at this is Rivers of Nile. Toured with them last year, and they do lots of 3-part harmonies. They nail them. Drummer, bassist, and vocalist do it, and they're awesome at it. So it's cool to see that that's what these guys do, rather than just have James Labrie, the vocalist, do all of the harmonies.
Can you give me one quick thing?
What's that?
Just try instead of me, can you do a May? More a cleaner trill? May! And without so much growl?
It's so good that you can sing him a pitch or a melody, and he can sing it right back to you. I can't tell you how many times I've worked with vocalists who other people think are good and other people are wrong. Vocalist sucks. Where you try to get them to change a melody and you will sing it to them, or you will play it on a keyboard or whatever. You'll program it into like a MIDI piano so that it plays along while they're supposed to sing. And the concept of putting a half step or a whole step just makes their brain explode. A lot of people talk about tone deaf, which I definitely think is kind of a thing, but I personally have noticed that there's a thing called pitch deaf, which is where people can't tell the difference between whole steps and half steps. It is very frustrating to work with, and thank God for tuning software in that case.
You talk me like that, or
No, May! Yeah, May!
you want to just bring me down to the?
Yeah, I'll punch you in on just on the me. Okay.
Okay.
Give yourself up to me.
Yeah, that's the idea, but sung with more attitude. May!
Again, he's very, very coachable, which is great. If you saw my Cannibal Corpse reaction, totally different genre, totally different style of vocal, but Corpse Grinder was the same way with the vocals. He was totally coachable, totally open to it. It's great to see that James Labrie is same way, totally pro about it, and he can do exactly what he's being asked to do. He understands it and delivers. Tell me if you've noticed something about guitar players. Riffs like this that John's playing, not a difficult riff, but it's difficult to play it and sound awesome. I can tell basically from the first 3 notes of this riff that he's great. And typically with guitar players, you can just hear them strum a few chords and know right away that this person has their shit together on guitar. And it doesn't matter if it's a riff like this or something super complex. They just sound great. And it's not so easy to sound great, even on a riff like this. If you've got shitty technique, it doesn't matter if you're playing simple riffs. They're going to sound like shit. So you can tell from basically the outset, you can tell from note 1 or 2 that this person knows exactly what they're doing on the instrument. So don't think that just because someone's playing something simple that they themselves don't have developed technique. If they sound awesome, their technique is developed. Is it just me, or is that guitar kind of out of tune?
Little Jackie Baker.
Take me far away.
Except for the wrong note, it was stellar. I have trouble playing this slow.
One thing I really, really appreciate about how they arrange things is that they're very, very aware of background, foreground, middle ground elements, meaning what's in the lead, what's taking the majority of your attention, what's supporting it, and then I guess what are the decorations around it. But you'll notice with Jordan and Petrucci that as impressive as they are and as out of this world as they are, they have no problem playing really, really simple parts that just fit the song really, really well. And I do think that that's actually one of the reasons for why they go over super well, is because they do have riffs and they do have actual parts. And when Petrucci's role is to be a support instrument, he embraces that fully. Obviously, no problem going into lead land and playing crazy solos, but lots of these types of bands go wrong when everybody's trying to show off the entire time. These guys have the perfect balance in their arrangements of riff to show off. And let me just add that when it's show off, I really don't feel like it's show off. It's just technically impressive, but it seems, or at least in my opinion, it's written really, really well. It's what the music is asking for. So you can tell he's actually tracking right here because he's doing the smart thing and muting those strings. If you've never done that, you really, really should. You should at least try it for when you're recording leads. Makes a world of difference.
The only preconceived kind of mood or vibe that I really wanted to maintain throughout the whole album was it had to have balls. It had to be cool, you know? We wanted to make an album that was cutting and aggressive and modern. Octavarium had some more ballad-esque kind of U2, Coldplay kind of influences. And as much as we dig that stuff as well, I wanted to make an album that was just aggressive.
There they go, being cool with their influences. How often do you hear a metal band say Coldplay and U2 influences? That you just don't hear that very often. So even though I don't like Coldplay or U2, I think it's awesome that these guys do, and they're not afraid to say it. You really shouldn't be embarrassed of any of your tastes.
Let me do it like down, pick like that, so I can get a little harmonic action.
Yeah. Can you slide into it too?
Yeah.
And you're gonna single track this, right?
Yeah.
There's nothing wrong with alternate picking, but just listen to how good that sounds downpicked. That's a lot of downpicking, and he's sustaining it for quite a while. That's a perfect example of why you really should work on your endurance with downpicking, because this kind of riff, I think the instinct for a lot of people would be to alternate pick this, but it sounds so much better downpicked. And you'll find in the studio that there are a lot of parts that maybe live you would play alternate that just sound better downpicked. And so work that stamina and get your downpicking strong. It'll make your tone in the studio just sound so much better. Very cool bass line. I appreciate that he's not just playing the same thing as the guitar, though you can tell that sometimes he is playing unison with the guitar, but just doing the slide, the hold, and the space, the pauses, the rests, it's so cool. That's something that great bass players know when to do, and that shitty bass players never do. And you you see the second time through the riff, the bass starts playing unison with the guitar, and that makes it so much more powerful. Even though it's a repetition of the part, it sounds bigger, it sounds more intense. So they're building the arrangement while still repeating the parts.
It also actually is a metaphor for my OCD, because I'm completely obsessive compulsive, and everything I do for this band or life in general is like that. My wheels are always in constant motion, and I'm always juggling 10 different projects at once, and 10 different responsibilities for the band at the same time. And so that song is kind of a metaphor for what's going through my head 24 hours a day.
I think every successful band needs one or two high-speed guys like that. You could be a high-speed dude on your instrument. Obviously, every single person in this band is high-speed top performer on their instrument, but there's a layer up from that, or I guess adjacent to that. I don't necessarily think it's better, but it's necessary. You need one or two people who are constantly thinking about that next step, next step, next step, next step, because that's how the business of the band progresses. You got to have that, or else nothing will happen, or other people will determine those things for you, and they don't always have your best interests at heart.
When will I ever learn? There's a way out of here, nowhere to turn.
We've turned into Biohazard.
Everything about this is sick, from that drum beat, which is really unique and really cool. Lots of times I see drummers try to do those types of beats where there's a lot going on and there's lots of like little elements to it. I don't know how to describe it. I'm not a drummer, but where there's a beat that has a beginning, middle, end to it. It's like a phrase, a repeating phrase of a beat, not just a regular beat. And I feel like lots of times I hear drummers do that, trying to do something like this, where it just kind of sounds herky-jerky. This actually has a groove to it. That already tells you a lot, because it's rare to find a drummer who can do something like that. Second of all, let's point out how awesome John Petrucci is, because when he's playing slowly, the tone is just immaculate, but he's playing actual melodies with an actual theme that inspire an actual vibe. And even when he starts shredding and playing these insane arpeggios right here, it all still fits that vibe. And that's what I feel like a lot of people who practice all the time and try to get to, virtuoso level, that's one of the things that they're missing out on, is actually playing music. Like, they're good at the instrument, but they miss out on actually playing the music. You can do really technical things and still be very, very musical. And I think that's a perfect example of what's going on here. And also notice when he gets into the arpeggios, when it's like burning, it's earned. It gets to that place naturally. It's not just out of nowhere. So it really, really works, and it doesn't just sound like he's showing off. It just works.
Cool.
What's life without a sick dive bomb? Arrangement-wise, it makes perfect sense that they're playing unisons. It makes perfect sense on a riff like this that even the kick and the snare are matched up to what the guitar and bass are doing. I think that there's this tendency with a lot of bands to make everything the same. Not like every riff is the same, but everything the same arrangement-wise, where the guitar always follows the bass and the kicks always follow the riff, and that is just how it's done. But it's way more effective when those parts actually mean something, and that's because there's contrast to other types of parts. For instance, where they switch right here, and the guitar is still very, very busy, but the accents change. It's a differently accented riff, and the drums are no longer following the guitar notes like kick for kick. He's leaving a lot more space, and it just works. It like grooves harder. And I think in big part because of the contrast to the previous part where everything was just lined up mechanically and playing in unison.
James, do you have to have the distortion to perform this?
Well, yeah, or else I'm not gonna translate properly.
Okay.
Like I'm gonna be having all this reverb. No, when can't you?
Pro tip, when you're working with a vocalist, it's really important that you give them a headphone mix that makes them feel like they're on stage or some big rock star and that they sound incredible. And if a certain part needs certain effects for the part to work, give that to them in their headphones so that they can hear themselves doing it, because it's going to affect their confidence. It's going to help it. And it's also going to affect the way they sing, because they're going to sing into the effect. It doesn't matter if you're monitoring it with or without those effects. What matters is what the vocalist is hearing, and does it help them perform the part? And oftentimes, yes.
Dirty organ you like better, this one? Or this one?
The first one.
First one has more of an organ vibe.
Yeah, it's more John Lord.
I gotta say,
I like the second one better. Oh, that is a cool change. That is some really, really good arrangement. Listen to how interesting it sounds when he goes clean with everything else going on around it, as well as what Jordan is playing with it. And when it switches back into distortion, the way it makes perfect sense. That is some very, very meticulous and detailed arrangement.
it's okay.
God, that song is a workout. Holy shit. Very nice chord changes there.
It burns deep down inside of me. We have ourselves to be.
Yes, this is 2006. Black Holes and Revelations probably just came out. Absolution was a few years ago. Muse were kind of like the band that cool musicians were into. So I can hear it.
It's at the point, and I think it has been since the beginning, that there's certain members within the band that it's almost like telekinesis, you know, like they communicate without saying. It's almost, they can see where the other guy's going with the idea and play right into it before it was even discussed. Or during the process, a lot of that is going on. Hang on a second, oh, wait a minute.
That's what happens when you've been working with people for a really long time and you have really, really good musical chemistry together. I'm not going to say it's like a psychic thing, because I don't believe in that, but you kind of are able to finish each other's sentences musically. Basically, that's what he means. And if you've ever had a significant other that you've been with for a long time, or a friend that you had for a long time, or business partner, the same thing happens. You get on the same wavelength.
The chemistry in our band is so great, and we've been doing it for a long time, and we've discovered, the art of diplomacy with this stuff. And, there's just like, if somebody feels really strongly about an idea, then you usually let that person go with it. And if somebody doesn't, then, you kind of give in, and there's this give and take thing. It's a formula that works really well.
The art of diplomacy is something that bands who have stuck around for a long time with consistent lineups, that's something that they've mastered. You have to, I'm sure that we can all think of bands where there's been one member and like 30 others over the years. I'm not going to mention any, but I'm sure some come to mind. And that's generally because they're not very good at diplomacy. It's not because they're not talented. Usually those bands where there's the one dude where everybody quits on them and then they get another group of people and then they quit and then another group of people and then they quit over the years, assuming that they are a successful band. Usually that main dude is brilliant musically and knows what they're doing. They're just not diplomatic enough to keep their relationships good. A band like Dream Theater that for the most part has kept a consistent lineups. Like I know that Mike Portnoy was gone for a while, then they had Mike Mangini for a while, but Mangini was in for quite a long time. Portnoy was in a long time before that, and now he's back. These guys obviously know how to work problems out because their lineups stay very, very consistent.
Can we clean up this mess? The loss of loved ones like perverse they continue us at a risk.
Pro tip, if you want to add momentum on a part where adding, faster drums or making your other elements busier doesn't work, there's nothing like shaker or tambourine. I mean, that's age old. It works. Downpicking again. And like before, this is the kind of part that a lot of people would just strum because, I mean, it's chords, it's simple, but it sounds so much better downpicked. Try it.
I thought it would be a good idea to write something that kind of felt like a rally.
It was suggested that, why not get the fans involved, which was like, oh yeah.
The nice thing is it really sets up that song and, for live participation, obviously people are going to know that and they're going to want to do that. So.
Time for change. Fight the
Pro tip, if you want it to sound like a crowd, get a crowd. Like if you want to do gang vocals and have them actually sound like gang vocals, multiple people doing it is best. You can definitely record one person over and over and over, record them like 50 times and simulate a gang, but there's something different that happens when there's multiple people all going into one or two microphones. It changes the vibe and it changes the way it sounds. It's ideal to do it that way with lots of people.
That's the fill. You just got to perfect it. That's the shit.
Okay.
That's great.
It's a really interesting guitar tone. I wonder what that is. Get an EBow. If you've never fucked with an EBow, get an EBow. They're great. By the way, if you don't know what an EBow is, it's this little device. It's got these two grooves where you can basically position it onto the strings and hold it in place, and then it'll vibrate one of them continually, like a bow, like endless sustain. And it's got a couple modes. One of them has more harmonics, meaning a little bit more distortion. It's a little dirtier. One's cleaner, but it sounds really, really cool. And I mean, this is what it sounds like.
Spark and excitement and inspiration that was there when you wrote the song, you kind of have to dig down deep to kind of get back into that frame of mind and, get back into that headspace to record it, weeks, months, years later.
It's exactly what I was talking about earlier. When you don't write and record at the same time, yes, you might have more time to work on technical parts. You might have more time to develop the arrangements, but normally what happens is you go on to writing other songs, and whatever spark you had for what you were originally working on, and also the parts themselves, you kind of got to relearn them, and it's close to impossible to get the spark back that you had when you were writing it. Like, You can get into it, you can play it really, really well, but whatever that magic is that takes place when the idea is fresh, you're not going to be able to recreate that. For better or for worse, you're just not going to be able to.
You know, we're all feeling at the top of our game. We're all feeling that, you know, we have something really still a lot to prove as a band to the world, you know, and to maintain that relationship with the fans that we have acquired throughout our career, and to attract new ones, you know. And I think that's what every band hopes for, is that you can expand.
All right, so does it hold up? I think it's pretty obvious that it does. The level of musicianship that you saw wasn't just good for its time, it's elite by any standard. But what I really want you to take away from it isn't just sheer technical ability. It's the intentionality behind the arrangements. When you're writing complex progressive metal, it's just really easy to shit out a riff salad where everything is fighting for the same frequency and note space. All right, we've come to the end of another video. Be sure to like, share, comment, subscribe, and let me know in the comments, do you think their playing still holds up? What's your favorite Dream Theater song? All right, see you next time.